Hello and welcome to Modern Thatch Living. Today we're going to be making a plant stand. The specification that I've been given by my wife is that it should be made out of beech like the other furniture in here. It should have 3 tiers for pots to stand on, and it needs to fit in this corner here. So we've got to take account of the fact that the ceiling slopes, so that gives us a height of about 1.5 meters to put this in, and we've got about 600 to 800 mil to spare in this gap at that height. So let's go outside and start making it. So I've now got 2 pieces of beech here. One is 18 mil thick, which I'm going to use for the shelves, and the other is 24 mil thick, which I'm going to use for the supports that hold the shelves. So they're 220 millimeters wide, so let's think about how we're going to actually make this now. Here we have the shelves. I'm going to make 3 shelves of different sizes, 20, 30 and 40 centimeters deep, and they'll all be about 60 centimeters wide. The spacing of the shelves will be a 5:4:3 ratio in the structure, and it's going to be an A-frame type design. The dimensions on here are approximate. Generally finds that need to be a little bit flexible when I'm making things. It's quite easy to not quite cut things exactly where you want, or you need to deal with some issue, and so the sizes always end up being very approximate. Anyway, let's see how we go. You never know, it may come out exactly as drawn, although somehow I doubt it. So, safety specs on. Let's measure up. Right, last time I was out here, we had a camera failure when I was cutting the shelves for the plant stand, which is a bit of a pity. Anyway, this is the pile of shelves that I cut. Now, I was cutting shelves that was 600 mil in length, and the plank was 2.4 meters in length, and I wanted to get 4 shelves out of it. And the mathematicians amongst you will say, yep, 6 goes into 24, that should all work fine. Well, maybe not, and the woodworkers amongst you will already have figured out what went wrong. Basically, the saw blade is about just under 3 millimeters thick, and that means that every time you cut a piece of wood, you lose 3 millimeters from your plank. So when you're cutting 4 shelves out of it, you get to the last one and you find that you're somewhat short. So there's been a little redesign here, and each shelf is now 59 centimeters wide, and I got 4 shelves out of 1 plank. I then cut another shelf out of the plank that I was cutting the legs out for the stand, and I've planed that down in the thicknesser, which I can show you now. Right, so that's where we are. Okay, so here we are. We've got a couple of the leg pieces, and I suspect that is the sort of size, sort of angle that we want. I'll just put one of these out here so that I can just measure it. About 25, it's a little bit less than 25, but that'll be okay. Right, so I think we are all set on that angle. Right, so let's draw a line. So let's draw a line here on that angle, and now we need to cut it. So I'm going to go for a very simple construction. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it, and then I'm actually going to peg it and then cut it square around the corners. I think maybe around the corners, not sure what I'm going to do at the top. Right, and then what I'll do is I'll do exactly the same on the other, but I'll use this one as a template. Right, now I want to keep on the inside of this line and probably tidy. What I'm doing is I'm screwing the blade out a little way. Every time I've lined the wood up using the edge of the plane, it's a straight edge, and I know that if I screw the blade out, it's going to move in towards the wood and cut a little bit more off each time. It's very close. Right, I'm going to put 2 dowels in each of these. I've got both legs here, and what I'm going to do is just line them up. So I think I probably want one about there. You know, one about there, one about there. So I will just draw a line on both of these. 24, I want it 12 millimeters in, and this is where I wish I was wearing my glasses. And you wouldn't believe the number of times I make mistakes because I'm not wearing my glasses. Well, there's really no excuse when it's 10 centimeters out, which I have done before. Right. Oh, water's dripping onto the wood. That's not good. Do this one first. Okay, so the next step is to join two sets of boards together. The first thing I need to do is joint the edges. That basically means to flatten them so that when I put them together they won't have any gaps. So I now have the router table set up with a small spacer on the back of this fence that brings it forwards a little, so we can straighten out the edge of the wood. Right, let's turn everything on. Right, I've decided that I'm going to put a tongue and groove into the pieces of wood that I'm going to glue up. Although you can joint them without doing that, so just gluing the two flat surfaces, I think that putting a tongue and groove in will help line it up and make it a bit stronger. Right, now I'm going to change the bit without changing the position of the fence. So these are the two bits that I've just used. They're white side matched tongue and groove bits. When I've used them at this time of year, I always spray them with a bit of silicone spray, because there's so much damp out here. And I find that this just helps stop things getting quite so rusty. For expensive bits, you don't really want them going rusty. It's kind of amazing, even when I keep them in this supposedly watertight box, there's still enough moisture in the atmosphere to cause a problem. So we're ready to do the glue up now. You can probably hear it's raining really, really hard outside. And here we are again, and the glue up is finished and everything's set, and I've taken the wood out of the clamps and cleaned it up. And as you can see, it's not worked too badly. In cleaning it up, I planed the surface with a hand plane a bit just to smooth it up and sand it, and it looks pretty good actually. So there's not too much of a cup on these boards at the minute. I seem to have flattened it out a bit. This board is not quite as good as the other one, though the join on this side is pretty good. So if I have that as the top face, I think that will be acceptable. Nobody's going to look underneath. Right, okay, now I've taped up the legs so they don't move. I can work on them together. So first thing I need to do is square off the legs at the bottom. So at the minute I've got the mitre saw set up for cutting 45s and skirting board at the back on the fence. And I'm just afraid that if I cut with this small chip, it's going to move back and get stuck in the gap there and cause a kickback. So what I'm trying to do is just clamp this in place so that that doesn't happen. Right, I think we're all set now. Right, that cut spot on the line. It's exactly the right angle, and these little chips didn't get stuck in the back. And I sacrificed a bit of wood there, but it's better than having a kickback. I have had a kickback on this before, not doing something like this. It was actually cutting quite a large piece, and I had a decent chunk of wood on this side and a longer piece on this side, and it was all clamped down on this side on the left, and I was happily cutting through it. It was a piece of 2x4, and it just suddenly absolutely exploded. I have no idea what happened. It's possible the wood was a bit wet. It had been stored outside for a while, been delivered, and it rained. But it was so violent that these metal fences at the back both got bent up, bent round, and I couldn't straighten them out with a very large 2-pound hammer. I had to just buy new ones, and actually created quite a large dent in the wall behind me. To this day I'm not 100% sure exactly what went wrong, but since then I'm really careful with this. It's obviously got the potential to throw back wood up as violently as any table saw. Anyway, the legs are cut nicely. I thought I'd round these edges here. Probably only do the front edge actually. I was wondering, I was going to do these, but I'm not sure I want to. Might round these off on the front edge too, and the back edge. Right, I think it's done now. I'm ready to glue up. It's actually so cold out here tonight that I don't think there's a snowball's chance of it actually setting. From past experience, I think when the temperature's as cold as this, it'll probably take about 2 to 3 days for the glue to set. So the best thing is just to pack everything away and wait for a warmer day. So let's pack up. Now I've sanded this and given it one coat of Osmo in the shed outside, and the temperature is quite cold again, and it's therefore taken quite a long time to dry. It's been 2 or 3 days and it's still not really dried. More worryingly, it was starting to get a white bloom on it, which I think might be water getting absorbed into the oil before it had properly dried. So I've brought it in and it looks much better now. So I'm going to give it a couple more coats of Osmo and we'll see how it looks. At the minute it's still a bit patchy. So let's get on with it. Ah, there we are. Plant stand is finished and another project is ticked off the list. It's taken a little bit longer than I was expecting for such a simple design. That's partly been down to the weather and the fact that it was so cold and I couldn't do the glue up as quickly as I'd have liked. But it is just one of those things. It always seems to take a little bit longer than you think, even for the simplest of designs. I hope that you've enjoyed watching this and look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Goodbye.